What's up, y'all? In this video, we're going to take a look at the Schlage BE365, what most locksmiths consider the tank of residential locks, if you could call it that. Is a non-connected, non-Bluetooth, non-phone operable, simply a keypad lock that can take like 20 codes. And what happens after a long period of time is the code, it will stop unlocking. Now you can hear something on the inside, and I've done a video, there it goes, relocks. I've done a video on the Schlage lever handle version. We took it all apart, and we're going to do that with this today to see what's going on with it. Now before you say anything, yes, first off, if you start having problems with any electronic lock, change the batteries. If you did nothing to the inside, if we take this off, we'll see that the inside is installed correctly. And just want to point this out for those of you who want to leave the comment that it's either installed incorrectly or something. I'll go ahead and clarify that it is not. That's facing down. It just refuses to throw anymore. So there's something going on internally with this lock. But if you have problems with yours, first just change the battery and then try it. And if it still acts up after that, then you've got something going on, which is what we're going to explore. So go ahead and skip forward a little bit. I'll go ahead and put this in chapters. And if you already know how to do all this, unplug your battery. This is a fresh battery. Again, I put a brand new battery in, tested the battery. The battery is perfectly fine. We're going to be using a Vessel Red for today's activities. Go ahead and unplug it there and flip this back in. Take screws out. Carefully feed your wire through that hole. And again, when you're putting it back on, this has to be pointing down. There's directions right here, so that's got to be pointing down. Otherwise, it won't work. But there's something going on with it, and we're going to take it over to the bench and find out. All right, so doing YouTube videos for years has taught me one thing, and that people are impatient as hell. So I've gone ahead and ascertained the problem by taking this one apart and another one. And I inadvertently actually kind of fixed it, but I'm going to go ahead and go through this so that you see what to do. First off, this is a number 2 screws. This means this is an older lock. They normally come with 15, the newer versions come with number 15 T15 Torx screws, which is not that driver. So T15 Torx right there. So you would unscrew those. They all have the same number. There's 6 screws holding it in. Okay, I would like to point out one thing immediately is do not mess with this ring right here. I've had a couple of customers bring it in where they pried this ring off, and let's just say it's incredibly difficult to get back on without deforming the ring and getting this snapped in there. So do not take that ring off right there, please. Also, it's not a part that's really available or easily replaceable at all. Trust me. Once we have those 6 screws out, we're just going to lift this straight off. Flip it over. We're going to see what we got there. Now, this is going to fall off, but it shouldn't for yours. It should stay on there. And we are going to go ahead and check this. If your key worked in it okay, or if you need a key, now would be a good time to rekey it. It's a Schlage 5-pin key, and it has 3 components here. 1, 2, 3. I've done a number of videos on this, and then it's just a regular rekey. So typically what I'll do is I'll just set it down and let it come off like that. It's pretty easy to get it back together, so we're not going to worry about that. At this point, this is as far as you normally would go. And if you are not familiar with working with small parts, I highly recommend you don't do this. Our videos are made for locksmiths, but I'm fully aware that a lot of people who like to take things apart are going to try this as well. So please be cautious with this and be prepared to replace your lock totally if you can't get it back together. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and flip this upside down, and we will see 2 more T15 screws right here. So we're going to go ahead and take those off. And once we do, we're going to have access to the solenoid and the part that actually functions. And again, this can all spring apart on you, so hopefully if it does, this will help. So what's going on with this, and this is what I've discovered, is this gear turns freely right here normally, right in that area. And you see these little marks on the gear right there, those little wear marks. What that is this pin that pushes up. All right, so if we hook this up, here's your solenoid behind this, and this all just pops off. So if we flip this upside down, everything will kind of fall out. So you don't want to do that quite yet, because I want to show you what the actual problem is. Let's go ahead and get this re-hooked up. Okay, so what happens when this goes up is it pushes that pin up into that. If you see it one more time, see how that pin comes up into the middle right here? What that's doing is intersecting with that gear, and the entire throwing portion of it is controlled by this pin going up into that gear right there. So when you take this off and you look at this, if you grab something and you push up, and this was exactly what was wrong with this one, is that it had some kind of burr in this area, and it was not allowing the pin to push all the way up. It was stopping right there. Instead of going all the way up, it was stopping at this point. It's sometimes catching it, sometimes not catching it, but it was stopping right there. Thus, when you turned it, it wouldn't do anything because it wasn't going all the way up in the hole. So there's a pretty easy fix for that. If that's your problem and you're looking at this and this won't push up past a certain point and your solenoid is doing its thing, all right, so what we're going to do, let go. We're going to pop this off, and that is spring loaded. Boing. And there's a little pin along this guide. So we want to check that and make sure that it's actually moving. If this wasn't moving up and down, then and it's trying to, then that means that pin may have broken off. So that may be another thing, but our pin is perfectly fine. It just kind of catches it in the middle and goes up and down. So we're going to turn this. Now remember, this one is this is held in with that clip on the other side. It may come out on its own, but you really don't want it to. So here's how we can fix this whole problem. If this is the deal and you reach in here and you try to push this and it doesn't go back through, all you have to do is pull this out. It's simply a very lightweight spring with a domed cap doodad on it there. Don't lose any of this. We're going to grab a drill bit. This is the same size as that. And let's see, maybe 9/64. Nope, that would be 1/8" drill bit. Yep. All right. So what I would do in this situation is just take your 1/8" drill bit and kind of run it through a little bit, just with your hand, and use it kind of like a file. You know, you could use a file too, so you could just grab a round file. That'd probably be just as good. Here we have a cheap little Harbor Freight file. Take it and just kind of smooth that hole out a little bit and not knock any burrs that are keeping the pin from going through. There we go. Let's check the pin. Put our spring on
to check it. We really don't need the spring, but okay. Yep. Okay, it's going through freely now. That's what we want. If for some reason in the other Schlage video that I did where it's a lever handle, some people were saying thanks for posting this, it helped me put it back together because I took it apart and it basically, I couldn't get it back together without your video. If for some reason the solenoid's not doing this thing, some people in that video have said, hey, I was able to order a new solenoid and resolder it. I guess you wouldn't have to resolder it. I guess you could figure out a way to, yeah, you'd probably have to resolder that. But here's a picture of that. A new motor. We don't need it for this. And yes, it this just pulls off. So I want to make sure that's fully attached. This does go into this capsule. So it has to be the same size, right? Otherwise it's just not going to fit. So we're going to go out here. I'm going to set this to millimeters because most of these little cheap Chinese motors are that way. So 27.36 long, kind of this double D shape, 1.15.36, and the shaft on it 1.43. Let's double check that. 1.44 diameter shaft that is at least 10 millimeters long. It can be cut down, and yeah, that's that. So we're going to put this back because it's not really that that's causing the problem. It works. We found the problem for this guy. It may not be your problem, but maybe it is, and hopefully this video will help you figure that out. Let's put this on first. It's not going to stay really well. It's going to keep trying to pop out. I'm going to go ahead and set this down and zoom in a little bit because this requires several hands. I'm going to flip it upside down. Maybe that'll help me. All right, and then bring this in just like that. Drop that down. Let's push. I'm holding this back right now. Let's push that in a little bit. Okay, see, it just sprung out. This is that tricky part of not being able to get something back together. Comes apart easy. May not go back together quite so easy. All right. There we go. All right, let's make sure it goes up and goes through. It does. Now we're gonna hose it down with lube. Now I'm using Houdini, so it's electrical safe. It won't hurt anything. Might as well clean your keypad here while you're doing it. If you're using some other kind of lubricant that may not be electrically safe, then don't spray your electronics. All right, this guy just ploops right down. Oh, as long as that's plooped down the correct way. Nope, ploops right down the upside down way. You could spray this too. Somebody's gonna say, why didn't you spray the most important part? Okay, I know, because it's the internet. Ploops right down. Holes line up. It is sitting correctly, so we'll go ahead and put it back together. And give it a checkaroonie. You don't have to put it together to give it a checkaroonie. All right, let's put this in there so to have a visual. All right, so press the Schlage button. Hear it clicking, and boom. See how it moved? It's not moving. Try it again. Click. Moving. Timed out. Not moving. All right. It's in the locked position right now. And then we're going to try to unlock it. Boom. Unlocked. So we are working again, looks like. And we can go ahead and get this back together. Lift up. It might be a good time to go ahead and lubricate this part too. It'll help that little rubber O-ring that's there maintain its flexibilityness. All right, if we flip this over, we see this guy, all right, that freely rotates. That goes in that hole. So we just need to line that up with that. Or you could turn this straight up, would be how I do it. And then turn that straight up, and it should snap right together. I'm gonna drop it on there, and then we're just gonna rotate that a little bit, and it should be flush all the way around. Put our screws back on, which I'm only gonna do 2 for the video, just to point out that it is now working and hopefully has solved your problem. But you want to put all 6 screws back in. And let's go put it back on the door. Why you got it off? Of course. Spray this too. All right, let's put this guy back on with the bolt retracted and your tailpiece lined up with the hole in the latch for the tailpiece. We want to guide this over the top of the bolt, and that, all right, so how it doesn't line up, so we need to turn it that way. Now it lines up, so get your wire through and make sure you pull the wire along with it. All right, I'm gonna hold this on this side with my free hand over here, and make sure that your tailpiece is down like that. Your head has to point down. The arrows match up to the other arrows. This goes through this hole right here. And through there. So don't let your wire get bound up while you're doing that. If you crink your wire, it'll cause problems electrically. And we need to find the screws for this. All right, we're going to tighten it down most of the way. By the way, your battery should never be left hanging like this. So the battery needs to be off while you're doing this. All right, once it's most of the way, not totally tight, you want to straighten it up. So we're gonna look at the outside and make sure it's straight. You need to unscrew it just a bit. If it goes on crooked, it just looks terrible. So make sure it's straight. Make sure the inside's straight. Hold it and then tighten it down. Just like that. And it may not look straight because of the wood grain on this door, but it's straight enough for demonstration purposes. All right, put these two together. Put your battery on. Make sure it's a new battery. Got a good beep. Run this wire behind that. Crunch all these wires back in here and drop that in. You want to make sure the wire is on the inside of this so that when you put your cover back on, it doesn't pinch the wires as well. Okay, the wire down here was keeping it from going in, right? There we go. Okay. Make sure it's all the way touching the door on the side, and put your two little decorative screws in. One at the top and one at the bottom. And give it a check. Does it work now? Did we fix it? Looks like we did. So that would be probably something that is fairly common. I've seen a number of these do this, and I really hadn't investigated the cause, but now I have, and now you have. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments on this video or any other ones, post them in the comment section after you've watched the whole thing to make sure that I didn't cover it the first time. Boom. Catch you next video.